Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Russ, K5TUX, Cheryl, W5MOO, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 521 of the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is Linux in the Ham Shack. And this is the weekender edition of Linux in the Ham Shack. We decided to push this one out because there's going to be kind of a 2-week-ish break where the hosts are all busy and traveling and otherwise occupied. So we didn't want to leave you hanging, and we also didn't want to take that break and come back with a weekender. We'll leave you with the weekender so you can enjoy some hedonism, maybe some interesting discussion, and we'll come back and hit you with a deep dive right in the gullet. So, all right, we should probably plow on here and get moving with our dive into hedonism and random topics and all the good things that make life worth living. Unfortunately, Cheryl, W5MOO, can't be with us yet again, hopefully very, very soon. We're still working on it. But in the meantime, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
So the way we start the weekenders is we choose a random topic. And I've got the picker wheel up. I've randomized it 5 times. We're down to 7 topics, so we need some suggestions. Please hit us up if you got any. Otherwise, I'm just going to be making some crazy stuff up. So you might be hearing topics that have nothing to do with anything that you're even interested in. So, although I'm quite sure that's already happened. But let's go ahead and spin the button, or push the button, spin the wheel, and see what we get this time. This is one that I'm going to lean on Bill for because he knows more about it than I do. It's an amateur.
Uh-oh. This is like every week. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? No, I don't want to hear it. This is what you introduced me to this topic, sort of. So, this is all about the Magic Band, and we're talking about 6 meters. Now, the only thing I'm saying is you have more experience with 6 meters than I do. So I guess we're just going to hit some of the high points, maybe a 10,000-foot overview of operating 6 meters, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I guess you can start with like what you do on 6 meters and what you find interesting about it.
Well, I mean, 6 meters is, the Magic Band. Why is it magical? Well, it's only open once in a while. Normally during a season we call the E season. And that's when there's, charged particle E clouds or clouds in the E layer. I don't know exactly how
you don't
it
have
works,
to know. It's magic.
You can look it up. It's magic. That's right. It's just a puff of magic in the air. But you can tell if you follow sites like, I think I use DX Maps. In fact, I just got an email today from them about another opening. There's tons of openings on 6 meters. DX Maps. That's what I've been using for years. DX Maps. They'll send you an alert if you sign up to know when there's activity. It's not always accurate to your area, especially here in Montana. It's not very accurate at all, but it normally gives me an indication of there's actually some activity on the band. But the E season is, pretty much most of summer. It starts picking up in July really big. Normally the June VHF contest for 6 meters is amazing. The conditions are amazing. And they continue into September when the September VHF contest comes around because most people are only making their contacts on 6 meters because sometimes 2 and 440 and whatnot don't work out unless you're really close in. But I do mainly, I was doing a lot of CW and sideband in the early days of my activity on 6 meters. Most people have gone to using FT8 and FT4 on 6 meters. So it's not quite as exciting as it used to be. In fact, you can go when there's a big opening and you see, FT8 looking like 20 meters on any given day on 6 meters. It's you can tune right down to where the CW would be normally, somewhere generally between 50 090 and right below the voice section of the band. And you don't hear a darn thing. Nobody's on there. And occasionally you can catch somebody on voice, but even that is very rare. Very rare.
One of the problems I find with like 10 meters and 6 meters is that the band itself is just so big. Obviously there are calling frequencies in places where people generally hang out, like in the 28-100 to 28-300 for CW and 28-300 and 28-500, on 10 meters and stuff like that. And of course, there's places where you can sort of go to look for people, on 6 meters as well. But just it's nice when you're down in the 80-40 meter area. There's just not a lot of band there, so sweeping the dial can usually net you something. But 6 meters and 10 meters are huge, and people could be operating anywhere. So that's what
I kind of agree with that. Maybe on 10 meters, but like. Generally, people in various areas will operate in certain ranges.
And of course, you have the DX clusters, to spots and stuff like that. So that's helpful too sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, 6 meters has always been a little bit more tight. Voice would only start creeping up, once 50, 125 and 50, 130 were kind of packed. And all of a sudden you start seeing people just start working up, every 5 KC, you'd have another station. When it was popular, or when voice was popular on 6 meters, CW, obviously just the whole CW band is not very large. It's pretty much the same size as most of the other bands. And then FM starts, pretty much at 5,200, 52 megahertz or whatever, 52525 is the calling frequency or whatever. And then you can find repeaters and whatnot. I have never, ever worked FM on 6 meters.
There's a 6 meter
where I have worked
around here somewhere, and I don't know that I can hit it, but I think it's like one of those ones that has I think it has a PL and everything, and I'm not sure I've even been into my IC7100 enough to know how to put a PL on a 6 meter frequency or whatnot. So, but yeah, it's pretty much been FT8 for me, but it's cool when it's open, because one of the things I think that, or one of the reasons I think they call it magic, is because it's really unpredictable, because it's the hop can be anywhere.
Yeah, and like when it's open, your antenna is really
right. You can have 2 leads connected to a penny and make a contact generally.
Yeah, it's just there's such a charged, whatever magic cloud that any RF basically will work. You can work 6 meters when there isn't ease. It's just much harder. You need very high gain antennas and lots of power. And you can work 6 meters when there is no official opening, quote unquote. So yeah, it's a fun band to work. That's for sure. I mean, it's a small antenna. What's a dipole? Like 5 foot?
I don't
side,
think
something like that.
I have the MFJ hamstick dipole, and I don't think the elements are even that long. I think they're like 3.5, 4 feet on each side.
Yeah. Those are, coiled or whatever anyway. But I think like natively it's not a big antenna. So like most people can put up like even a cheesy dipole with some wire, and you're going to have a lot of success on 6 meters. I use a Squalo here at the house just because I have one and it's tuned on 6 meters. So I have it up on a painter's pole that I push up when season starts, and it's up until pretty much now when it's starting to snow, just because, I don't want to kill my painter's pole. I need it for hanging Christmas lights. So, but yeah, 6 meters is really fun. I mean, I kind of like it. It's on almost every HF rig. So if you have an HF rig, you probably already have 6 meters. If you're a technician class, you can already operate 6 meters because it's VHF. It's just an interesting kind of DX-ish band. Gives you interesting almost HF propagation when it's open, and it allows you to use the HF radio if you're not a general, at least for something useful.
It's funny you should mention that because I was licensed in 1993 and I didn't have 6 meters until a year and a half ago. No, I didn't have.
You didn't
meters.
use
My
6
Kenwood
meters.
doesn't have 6 meters. So it's only.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You have the 570 or something? Yeah. There was like one model of the 570 that had it and one that
The G version
one that
had
didn't
it,
have it.
but mine was the one that didn't have it. I bought that thing a long, long time ago, and I didn't think I would, I didn't know that I would miss 6 meters until I was sort of exposed to the wonder of the Magic Band, and then I was like, oh, crap, now I got to buy a radio. But
there you go. Ted just confirmed it's 1.5
about 4
meters
feet.
on
So
each side.
that confirms with basically what I have up in the air. And it's, like you said, when the band is open, it's easily as effective as my big inverted V dipole. So
yeah, it's really amazing. And my first 6 meter rig was the one I let you borrow for quite a while, the Alinco DX70TH. So, and that worked fine for 6 meters. And, I only did digital modes later on with that particular rig. And yeah, I don't think I've ever done FT8 on there because it wasn't around when I had that one. But yeah, it's a very accessible band. It's very accessible to make an antenna. It's just very unpredictable when it's going to be open. I mean, if I'm looking at DX maps right now, of course, it's nighttime here while we're recording. So the U.S. generally at nighttime, it's not going to be open. But I can see right now that Japan is working into South America, so that's kind of interesting. There's Morocco's working into it looks like Peru. There's some activity on mainland Europe. So there's lots of activity going on the band right now. So it can be open at really random times. Obviously, it's daylight hours for most of those folks, except for possibly Brazil and South America. There, they should be in darkness, I'm assuming, most time zones. But we get those openings too here in the U.S. We'll get openings to Japan. I've worked into Japan. I've worked down to South America. I've worked into Europe on 6 meters. You can work DXpeditions on 6 meters. In fact, I think that Swain's Island that was just on the air like a week ago or something like that. They had 6 meters and they were doing 6 meters EME. So it's also a band that is functional for an Earth-Moon-Earth contact. So you can use it for that. Again, you'll want a pretty fine antenna for that. You don't want to be pointing a squalo at the moon, I don't think. I think you want a little bit of forward gain in order to get a reception off of an EME contact. But it's a very very approachable band, and it's very fun while it's active. It's very fun in those VHF contests. So if you're not really equipped to have like a rotating 2 meter 440 beam to run those kind of bands, or even the microwave bands, 6 meters, just running 6 meters only during those contests with just a simple dipole or even a vertical out on your vehicle and just being a rover, you'll have a lot of fun. I mean, it would be a lot of fun and not too much effort to actually make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at my log here real quick to see if I can find what kind of places I've worked on 6 meters here. Let's see, 6 meters. Show me interesting things. All right, let's see. Okay, so are these all 6 meter? Okay, so what kind of places have I worked on 6 meters? We've got the U.S., Canada, might be Dominican Republic, Mexico. Yeah, it's all kind of short for me, but yeah, Canada, Mexico, Central America, United States. So that's what I've been able to hit. But
yeah, and it's also one of these bands that the solar cycle is huge. So we're not quite into the peak of the solar cycle, so we still have probably at least another year and a half of pretty interesting, fun solar conditions. So if you haven't gotten into the Magic Band or 6 meters and you happen to have it, do what Russ did, right? You just put a couple of ham sticks on a dipole mount and just put it up in the air, or even a squalo. I've had this squalo for years, and it probably I probably got it for free, but I think I've seen them at Hamfest for like less than $50. And the painter pole, about another $20 for the painter's pole. I mean, you can have a functional system with very low investment, and because the antenna is so small, your neighbors probably won't notice it. So it might be even one you can sneak in an HOA and not get in trouble
because of
for.
the frequency and the wavelength of the antenna, you don't have to have it super high off the ground either, which is also helpful. I think a half wavelength or a full wavelength you need above the ground.
Yeah, you want it to be full wavelength, so like at least 3
Right.
meters off the ground.
Yeah, so only 10
So is that 10 feet?
Yeah, basically nothing.
That's not bad. It's better if you get it a little bit higher. At least get it over your roof would be nice. But like my painter's pole only goes up 18 foot, and I have it mounted to a deck that's 3 foot off the ground. So yeah, so 21 foot it goes up. I don't think it really makes the peak of the house, but it seems to work just fine. And you can't see it from the street, but you can see it from
Yeah,
my
I have
backyard.
mine on a Roan HF20, which is a 20-foot antenna. It's not quite at the top, so it's probably about 17 or 18 feet up, and it works just fine. So, is there anything else we need to say about it? Except get out there and work some 6 meters. Make sure your rig,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you have it and you haven't done it yet, just go do it. It's so easy to get on the air. It's very approachable. And, if you like FT8 and FT4, you're going to be in it to win it.
Yeah, for sure.
As they
And one
say.
nice thing about it, at least if you have any kind of antenna tuner worth its salt, you can tune it up. You can tune up 6 meters on anything. I mean, you still have a reasonable, power output because, unless it's just something that's because my multiband obviously is not tuned for 6 meters, but it works just fine on 6 meters. And I don't think it's even a struggle for the tuner to match it. So, and of course I don't have to match it at all on the hamstick dipole. So, that's the better radiator. But, like you said, if the band is open, you can hook up your underwear and make contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a 6 meter element on my HF9V vertical that I've used in the past as well. And I mean, that's always worked just fine. The Squalo just works just ever so slightly better, especially for the weaker signals and stuff like that. So that's the only reason why I use that. I mean, technically, I always have in my vertical a 6 meter antenna, and I have many contacts off of that wire that is definitely not tuned. The tuner definitely has to eat everything else from that. But the Squalo is
All right, very good. So that's our little 10,000 foot overview of the 6 meter band. It's really fun and interesting when you get out there, and if you get a chance to work something other than digital on it too, that's even better. Probably something I should try and focus on more, getting up into the high parts of the HF band and low parts of the VHF band, and actually working some voice or BSK or something. So.
Gotta go find
No,
that
I still have the
microphone.
microphone. I'm just going to plug it in.
Oh, okay.
All right. Very good. Well, that is our random topic for this weekender. So now we can slip on into the nice silk pajamas of hedonism. And as we always do in hedonism, we start with food because, we're human and we all got to eat. And if you're going to eat, you might as well enjoy it. So Cheryl was kind enough to find us a recipe and a cocktail recipe to talk about for this episode. So I guess I will run through this real quick. She has given us pan de muertos, or Mexican bread of the dead. So it's almost Dia de los Muertos, Halloween, and all that good stuff. So I'm sure that's the reason for this. She decided to share a recipe for this pan de muertos. It's a bread made for the November 2 celebration known as Dia de los Muertos, of course. You can also mold the bread into different shapes like angels and animals. The aniseed, while suggested, is optional, but you definitely need the orange zest, she says, so make sure you have some of that. For the bread, the ingredients are milk, butter or margarine, water, all-purpose flour, white sugar, aniseed, recommended but not necessary, dry yeast, teaspoon of salt, large eggs, and orange zest. And for the glaze, you need sugar, orange juice, orange zest, and white sugar. So in case you haven't picked up on this, It's got an orangey flavor. And very sweet.
And it's sweet.
Because, of course, it's really nice. So I'm guessing this is along the lines of monkey bread or, that kind of thing, or Amish bread. What do they call it stuff? The stuff you do the starters for. Sourdough. Is that sourdough? No. Friendship bread.
Sourdough,
bread. That's what I was
starters for, okay.
To make the bread, you have to do a whole bunch of different things. There's a long list of stuff. I guess bread is not the easiest thing. Of course, baking is never really easy, and it actually requires some attention to detail. So all of the information on the directions on how to make this will be in the show notes, of course. And for her mixed drink corner, or cocktail corner, or whatever, should be Cheryl's cocktail corner, right? Because that's 3 C's, even though they're not pronounced the same. As we call it, Carol's. Cheryl's cocktail corner? I don't know. But this one is called Frida's Flowers. And the description is a Dia de los Muertos celebration cocktail for, celebrating Dia de los Muertos, right? So this obviously involves tequila because, Dia de los Muertos. You can use strawberry syrup or hibiscus syrup, fresh lime juice, and creme de cacao. So you shake all the ingredients vigorously with plenty of ice, strain into a coupe or martini glass, and garnish with edible flowers if you have them and you so desire. So lime, strawberry, or hibiscus, creme de cacao, and tequila. Again, a sweet one, but it sounds good.
Yeah, interesting.
Interesting mix of sort of the fruity and the chocolatey. So
yeah, almost like it's not even. I mean, the creme de cacao is like only a splash,
part. Yeah, it's
right?
just kind of almost like a garnish.
Yeah, almost like a weird margarita, or maybe what do you call those things? Martini or something like that. Like a tequila martini.
And you're supposed to serve it in a coupe or martini glass, so that kind of lends itself to that. Yeah. So
there you go.
All right. Very good. And so moving on, we have my drink corner, and tonight I'm going to be talking about Old Elk blended straight bourbon whiskey, which is a little bit of a departure for me, but there's a specific reason I had this bottle, which I'll get to after I read the description. According to Old Elk, the key to our bourbon is our high malted barley content in our mash bill. By investing in our bourbon and using 4 times more malted barley than traditional recipes, we've created a non-traditional bourbon that generates sweet and light components. Aged for 5 years, the malted barley combined with the spicy essence of clove from the rye and the classic rich bourbon character from the corn amounts to a robust and smooth taste profile. It is definitely different. I'm not sure what the blending part of it is. They don't really go into that. But it is very high malted barley. And because of that, you do get some malty notes, which are good. The reason I bought this particular bottle is because I was looking for something to celebrate my dad back in April when he passed away. And he passed away at the age of 88. So I was looking for whiskey that was 88 proof. And there aren't that many of them. I did find a few. For example, Wyoming whiskey is 88 proof. However, the store I went to did not have Wyoming whiskey. And I also found 3 or 4 more that were bottled at 88% or 88 proof, 44%. But this was the only one they actually had. So I bought it. And
yeah, I was looking at Redemption
one, but I had
Redemption 88, but it's very hard to find. I've never found the 88 anywhere. I've seen Redemption a bunch of places, but never seen the 88.
I think there's 1 or 2 more that are bottled at 88. But anyway, I wound up buying this. And so it's not bad. I got mine in a special like commemorative box, and it comes with a big gold colored elk head pourer that you can stick on and pour the whiskey through if you so desire, if you want to be extraordinarily flamboyant. Otherwise, the cork is kind of shaped like a tree log, which is kind of cool as well. But the mash bill on it is 51% corn, 34% malted barley, which is in fact very high, and 15% rye, so it's even kind of high on the rye side. It comes out of Fort Collins, Colorado, even though it's a blended Kentucky straight bourbon. The color on it is a medium caramel, and what I got out of it on the nose is a nice sweet vanilla and caramel, some banana, clove spice, hints of maple and almonds. So pretty nice. And flavors and aromas that kind of lend themselves toward the end of the year and holiday season type stuff with the maple and clove and things like that. It tastes of maple syrup, almonds, bitter orange, raw bran, which of course is from that high malted barley, chocolate, a deep woody note, coconut, and saltgrass. So lots of different things in there. It's not a perfect meld of flavors into a symphony of taste, but it is pretty interesting, and that's probably from the blending and whatever they do with it. And the finish is salted caramel, some light woody notes, malted grain, of course, from the high barley content, nuts, and honey. So it's not bad. Let me take another sip of it here. Yeah, there's even kind of a beery quality in the taste, and I think, again, that's the barley content, the high grain. I don't remember if I had to pay extra for the commemorative bottle, but on average, this runs about $50, so it's not too bad. And I kind of really wanted to rate this at 88, just because, 88. Unfortunately, it's just not quite that good. So I had to bump it down to 86. But overall, it's pretty good. I would say it's a little on the expensive side for something that's a sort of mid-80s range bourbon, but it was not by far the worst thing I could buy for that kind of money. And it does have the requisite 88 proof, so I can toast my dad every time I have a little bit of Old Elk and feel good about it as I drink it. That is what I have, Old Elk blended straight bourbon whiskey, and you have something as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that Old Elk because that's out of Colorado. I probably have seen it on the shelf here many times. And I see they make a double weeded Old Elk as well, which looks kind of interesting, but they don't seem to have that available anymore. I might have to go hunting for it or something. Anyway, yeah, I picked out a bottle today, and this is a Rossville Union Bottled in Bond straight rye whiskey. And you're like, well, it's Rossville Union. You've already had it. But no, this is actually a limited release. Rossville Union's master distiller, Ian Sturzman, hand-selected this Bottled in Bond 6-year-old rye whiskey. This masterfully crafted 2023 limited release rye whiskey is caramel and mocha forward with a rich candied fruit body and a slight green apple, malted chocolate, and cinnamon finish. It's aged 6 years, and of course, it's 50% ABV. It was around $50, so plus or minus taxes and whatnot. But yeah, it's let me have another.
Why do we know it's 50% ABV? That's right, it's bottled in bond. Has to be 100 proof.
Yeah, I it's growing on me. I kind of like this. This is actually really good.
How does it compare with the regular, barrel proof one?
Yeah, I mean the barrel proof one is, I think, better. I thought that my first swig of this was a bit on the burny side, but I think it's like the third sip I've had, and it's all I've had from this one because I literally just bought this today. And just
I think there's sometimes a problem with things being bottled in bond. I think the restriction of it having to be produced at 100 proof is not always to the malt's benefit. Sometimes it would be well served to be released at a slightly lower or slightly higher proof. So the fact that it comes out at 100 might be a good thing, but could very well not be.
Yeah. So, I thought I would try this out since it was, something familiar, but then something new altogether. I didn't even know it was a limited release. I was just kind of roaming around the store aimlessly, as I normally do, looking for just a random bottle, and they had a stack of these, and I'm like, oh, well, that's a different shape bottle, which it is a different shape. So if you look at it online, it's a different shape than the normal Rossville Union bottle. So that's what stood out to me. I was like, oh, it's Rossville Union. That's not the shape of the bottle. So so I picked it out. It's pretty good. I mean, it's limited release, so you might want to run out and grab one. It's I don't think you'd be disappointed. No, yeah. I mean, it has a fantastic nose, and it tastes really good. It's got a nice spiciness to it, but not lingering spice. So it's very good.
That might be worth picking up just because I need to keep augmenting my rye selection. I just don't have that many of them. So
that's a good one.
All right, very good. So that brings us down to announcements and feedback. And the only things we have are the fact that, as we already mentioned, we're low on Weekender topics. So if you have anything you want to sling our way, please do so. We would really appreciate it. Otherwise, we're going to start digging in the bottom of the barrel, and you never know.
We'll have 6 topics left. It won't be good.
You don't know what's left, but it could be terrible. And the other thing, of course, is for the next 2 weekends, we will not be recording. So after this is released, we will not be recording again until November 12th, just so everyone is aware. But we will be having a deep dive then. So we look forward to having you join us when we come back. And
I just wanted to mention that I did make it out to Bellingham and Linux Fest Northwest. I was my typical introverted self and did not speak to many people. I did wear, my Linux in the Ham Shack t-shirt and talk to a few people there, including one that I'd met back in 2019. And I must have rubbed off on him enough that he went and got his license, and he's now a licensed general. I didn't get his call sign. I should have asked it. He's got his general class license. He's still kind of figuring out what he wants to do with ham radio. I think he only has a handheld right now. He is a listener. So hi, thank you for saying hi and telling me all about your ham radio experience. And it was pretty fun. It was definitely a different event. Because we didn't have my talk. We didn't have the regular tracks, the multi-tracks and stuff like that. Friday night, we had a meetup that was basically at brewing, Stone Throws Brewing or something similar to that in Fairhaven, which is basically South Bellingham. I think that's what they sort of call it. Really good. Had some drinks there, had a couple of beers. It was kind of far away from the hotel, so I didn't want to drink too much. I think I only had 2 beers and then kind of skedoodled out of there. Did get to talk to some folks there. I saw Chris, Fisher from, Jupiter Broadcasting, and Noah, which we've had on the podcast here, talk about, what Linux audio. And of course he's, has his own radio show and podcast. What's his podcast called? Noah.
Yeah, you're asking me on the wrong night.
Yeah, my brain is not working tonight. Noah. Anyway, most of you know who Noah is if you listen to a lot of Linux podcasts. So he lives over in my neighboring state here in North Dakota. He runs Alta Speed Networks. Ask Noah. That's the podcast. Ask Noah Show. Noah Chalaya. So he was there. Yeah, a bunch of the other Jupiter Broadcasting people were there. I think Brent and maybe Wes was there. So I didn't really go up and talk to them just because there was a lot of people that wanted to talk to them. So I just let the people go around them. But anyway, Friday night was at the brewery. After that, they did a video game / card game / everything pinball game place meetup after that, which was just like 2 blocks down. But I was traveling with my wife, so I decided to go back to the hotel. and not partake in the gaming aspect of it, but I heard it was a lot of fun and everybody had a great time. The second day, Saturday, they had a couple of tracks at the library from about 1 to about 4:30, I think it went to. And I did sneak in there about 2:00 and caught some interesting talks from the Fedora folks, as well the guys from Clonezilla were there and talking about Clonezilla, and it was very interesting that Clonezilla can run via Pixie Boot, because it kind of just piqued my mind since we were talking about Ventoy, right? Ventoy has a Pixie Boot option as well for the Ventoy server. That was kind of interesting and cool to hear a little bit more in depth from the people directly involved with that project. Other than that, there was a dinner right after that downtown, and I think it's called a Brady Wine Kitchen in downtown Bellingham, and the food there was pretty good. Service was okay. They kind of kept up. I mean, it was a lot of people that all showed up at once. I would say probably in the neighborhood, somewhere between 70 to 100 people were in this kind of mass gaggle of Linux, Northwest people that still made the event, even though the event was pseudo canceled. because of our location being canceled. So yeah, it was still a pretty good showing. The weather was pretty good. Typical Pacific Northwest weather: wet, cloudy, foggy. Couple of breaks of sunshine. Much better than the snow we're getting now, though. So that's fine with me. But yeah, it was really fun. Good time to go there too. The leaves were, of course, falling and changing colors, so we got a glimpse of what the Pacific Northwest leaves look like and stuff like that. But yeah, great trip overall. Had a lot of fun. Went into Seattle for a little bit, both on Friday morning and on Saturday or Sunday afternoon. After and before our flight. So, it's really good. They're looking forward to having the event, I guess, in April next year. So that'll be when the next Linux Fest Northwest will occur. So I will attempt to get that on my schedule, but we will see when it gets a final date and a final location. And maybe, just maybe, I will talk about amateur radio and the combination of Linux there.
Well, hopefully they don't have issues like they had this year with the building, and it will all go off without a hitch. So.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right, very good. So, yeah, stay tuned for Northwest Linux Fest next year. I don't think there's any chance I'll make it out there, but not with Hamvention being the next month and all that good stuff. All right, so with that, we're down to new subscriber supporters and live participants in our social media feed. So we got some people to mention here on Facebook. We have David Birkland, John Bogner, Les Moses, Glenn Butcher, Falim Doyle, Antonio Patricio, Samuel Beckwith, Pete Summers, Stephen Forcier, Arnold Grubbs, G.A. Torres Ramos, and 19 more people that can't be named because Facebook sucks. On Twitter, we had one new follower, DEK0NYX, or DayK0NYX. On Instagram, we had PY1ZB. On Mastodon, we had @Morad, @Bostazar70, @EA8DHY, and @NannyAKD, or NunyaKDA, maybe NunyaKDA, something like that. Mailing list, we had Pierre Bolt. And on Discord, we had That Guy and Yippee Skippy.
Yippee Skippy.
And since it was an off night for recording, we only had one diehard fan in the chat, and that's Ted, WA0EIR. So thanks for being here, Ted. We appreciate it. And we also appreciate all of you who are fans of Linux in the Ham Shack, who listen to the show, who contribute, who send us cash to help keep the lights on, and all of the folks who just, get the word out and are part of our little piece of the internet. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for hanging out with us. And with that, we do have a little bit of a hiatus here, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks, a little more than a couple of weeks, and we'll have some continued great content as we go in toward the end of 2023. So thanks for being here. We're going to get on out of here and sign off from this Weekender, episode number 521 of Linux in the Ham Shack. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Our website is located at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast by visiting the LHS Patreon page at patreon.com/LHS Podcast, or by using the contribute list on the homepage. We have a presence on Discord, Facebook, IRC, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also drop us an email at info@lhspodcast.info, or leave us a voicemail at 1-909-LHS-SHOW. That's 1-909-547-7469. Visit the online LHS merchandise store at shop.lhspodcast.info for fun and fashionable show-themed merchandise. Until next time, remember to always heed your hedonism.